Welcome back, or maybe welcome for the first time to this chaotic space on the internet called Alchemy by Design. We're gonna get a bit slightly inappropriate today because we'll be talking about healing and shadow work. If you're here, chances are you've already tried journaling and it didn't work. You just ended up rage writing. You probably also tried cleansing or different forms of body work, but you still feel angry. And you've meditated, or better said, you dissociated for like 20 minutes and you're still down to plan zero. If that's you, welcome. You're at the right place. Welcome again. This is Alchemy by Design. I am Daria Stan, your host right here. I am the creator of Alchemy by Design. Alchemy by Design is a program that mixes alchemy with human design. The ancient alchemy, Jungian alchemy, and with human design to map out a map of your own unconscious. And I'm working a lot with the shadow side of people because the shadows we need to integrate for an actual true transformation. There's no enlightenment, there's no ascending until you are ready to descend within you to find your true self. Now, shadow work isn't cute. Shadow work is a full ass breakdown. It's a tower moment in tarot where everything breaks down in order for you to be able to rebuild anew. Let's be honest. It's not a Pinterest board, it's not manifesting, it's not a journaling challenge. It doesn't look that way. And a lot of New Age spirituality wants to portray it like it's easy, it's cool, it's hip. It's not. It's really, really not. Shadow work is crying because someone had a tone at the post office which reminded you of a tone that your dad had back in 1984 and it triggered something in you. Shadow work is realizing you self-sabotaged again because, God forbid, your life would be any good. You're more scared of success than you are of failure because you've learned how to deal with failure, but you haven't learned yet how to deal with your own success and your own growth. Shadow work is staring into space and thinking, I'm so aware of the patterns, yet I still can't change them. There's nothing I can do about them. Shadow work ain't pretty. Shadow work is crying and witnessing and seeing that you are the problem. You are the one creating your life and creating all of the things in your life that you are complaining about. It's not spiritual awakening, it's quite literally demolition, it's death, and somehow it's still extremely necessary. Now, how do you recognize your shadow? There was an old um, Buddhist monk who said that if you look at people that you judge and fastly look behind you, you might catch a glimpse of your own shadow. Now, your shadow, most of the times you can see it in the rear view mirror. You can't see your shadow as it happens. Your shadow gets out when you least expect it. It's like that annoying ex that sends you a message when you want him less. That's how your shadow works. When you need it less to be triggered, when you needed less to be feel attacked, when you needed less to be put down, that's when your shadow gets out and it reacts in the craziest ways, and it makes the others react in the craziest ways, and it generates a situation in your life that, why is this happening to me? That's how your shadow works, and usually that's exactly why you can only see it in the rear view mirror. Whatever makes you irrationally mad, that's your shadow. Whatever you judge in others, that's your shadow. That girl that you saw and thought she's too much and wearing something too sexy, oh yeah, that's your shame doing it. That's your own unintegrated shame, guilt. Your shadow is basically the version of you that's been told it's too much, it's too weird, it's too loud, it's too sexy, it's too dramatic, it's too selfish, it's too angry, you shouldn't behave like this. You were told all this when you were a kid, and you're carrying them within you like a tantrum that has never broke open. They're all festering in your unconscious, ready for the moment to get out. And like I said, they usually get out in the worst moments possible. You're at the bank and having a conversation about something important, and suddenly your rage shadow breaks out and you start fighting with the guy there like he has any fault. He's an employee there. And you're aware of it, but you still can't help it. Your shadow is basically all of the things that you've been told not to be. And you owe it to yourself to be. Yes, you owe it to yourself to have rage at the right moment. You owe it to yourself to be dramatic, to be sexy, to be too much, to be loud, to be whatever it is you suppressed there within you, and people told you it shouldn't be that way. It's festering in your unconscious, and every time it breaks out in situations like I just mentioned, it's like your inner, most deep self. I'll stop if you acknowledge me. That's all it takes. The shadow doesn't need healing. This is another big misunderstanding. I've healed my shadows. Your shadows never needed any form of healing. Your shadows need to be acknowledged. Your shadows need to be integrated. Your shadows need to be loved. And your shadows need to be brought up fully, brought out fully in the full light. There's no need to hide them. Now, there's stages of shadow work. Usually, people start from the denial stage. So, the denial stage is when you're fully suppressed and you keep telling yourself that you're fine, that didn't bother me, and you let people step all over you. This is usually the people-pleasing phase. Yeah, that's what it's called, the people-pleasing phase. No, that didn't bother me. No, that's okay. Yes, it did. Yes, it bothered you. And you're not doing anything about it. That's not peace. That's not maintaining the peace. That's not avoiding conflict. Avoiding conflict is standing up for yourself and feeling authentic in you. That's when you'll feel peace. After you've been authentic, spoke what you wanted to say, and the situation actually solves, you'll feel at peace. You'll feel comfort. That didn't bother me. That whole, I'm healed. I'm untriggered now by anything. I've reached a space in my spirit. No. Just no. If healing and doing shadow work meant that you have to be people-pleasing again, if healing and doing shadow work meant that you have to suppress yourself again, if healing and doing shadow work means ignoring your triggers again, triggers are just your boundaries. Triggers are just where you can't take it anymore. If it already triggered you, it's already overpassed your boundaries. Your boundaries are not solid. Sorry to tell you, but if something triggered you, the boundaries are not standing. It already overpassed that. You're not healing and you're not doing shadow work to become a puppet. You're healing and you're doing shadow work to become a full human. To become so happy and full of yourself. When people tell me, oh, you're full of yourself, what else am I supposed to be full of? What else am I supposed to be full of than of myself? It's me, right? I'm supposed to be full of myself, of my own energy. I'm not supposed to be full of somebody else's opinions of how I should look. I'm not supposed to be full of shame, guilt, triggers, and pain. And I'm definitely not supposed to keep my whole self bottled in some hurtful place in my stomach and my hips while I pretend I'm fine. No, that's not healing. Healing is showing rage at the right time to show rage when somebody actually angers you. Healing is being all of you are. Healing is not going through cycles of the same thing. Healing is stepping into that conflict with full authenticity behind it. Healing is blocking people. Healing is setting boundaries. Healing is not passive. Healing is not you becoming a dandelion waiting for the sun to open you up. No, healing is active. Healing is noisy. And healing places boundaries, cuts people off. Now, the second stage after this denial, where people usually avoid doing shadow work, saying that they're healed in their passiveness, comes the anger. Why am the only one doing the inner work? He's the hurt one. He's toxic. They're toxic. That one is toxic. That's the phase where you start projecting. Everybody has a problem but you. And when the more you go in, the more you realize that their problems are not yours. If they have problems, they can have them. You just need stronger boundaries. It's not your job to awaken others. It's not your job to heal others. It's not even your job to tolerate other people's unhealed practices. It's not forgive and forget. Yeah, sure, it's forgive because you don't want to carry all that resentment. You don't want to carry all that bitterness. You don't want to carry all that guilt and all that trauma. So yes, forgive. But don't forget. That's the lesson. And that's, again, where your boundaries come from. You didn't forget the last lesson. So now you know when the same cycle happens again. Nah. This is my boundary. You're not going to step past this. I know this toxic cycle won't happen again. This is healing. And anger, when you start pointing out at other people and wanting them to heal, it's just you becoming aware of your shadow. You're starting to seeing it in others. Now, then comes in the panic purchase. You buy 3 books, 5 courses, 2 coaching sessions, and an overpriced oracle deck. Because you suddenly think that your shadow work is somehow somebody's job. Now, I help people in shadow work, but I have to be very precise here. There's no one size fits all. I've had clients who finished my coaching program, Alchemy by Design, in 4 months. I had clients who took a full year. There's not a one size fits all because I'm not doing the work for you. My only role as a shadow worker is to hold space for you. Because some wounds, especially those related to guilt, shame, are very hard to get over without somebody hearing them for you and holding the space for you to process them. Guilt and shame in particular are very hard to get over because they're internalized. They're about you, about yourself. And no matter how many books you read, no matter what your oracle cards are saying, and no matter what the Reiki and the EFT practitioner released, if you're not gonna see it in the face, your shame, your guilt, you're gonna still carry it. That's the reality of it. My role is not to relieve you of your shame, not to help you release it in a yawn or in an energy practice. My role is to hear you and not judge you. My role is to hear what you're ashamed of and say, that's okay, we've all been there. My role is to hear what you feel most guilty and traumatized of and say, that's fine. You've been through that. That's your past. You're no longer tied to that. That's my role. My role is to hear you. My role is to tell you it can be okay, even if right now it doesn't feel like it. And also, a lot of self-sabotage comes from shame and guilt. And my role is also to remind you gently that you outgrew that place. Maybe somebody laughed at you when you did a public speaking in high school and you remained fixated that you can't speak in public. And I'm there to remind you that you're speaking with me. It's not much difference to speak with me, to a camera, to online, than to speaking with an audience, with 3 people, with 4 people. You're perfectly capable of it. You're already doing it. Yeah, maybe in high school you were shy, but you're no longer in high school. You can do this. Now, the next phase people usually go through with this shadow chasing is journaling rage. Been there, done that. I have a full drawer of journals full of rage. Honestly, I'm gonna be purely honest here. Pure of rage. Those pages have more tears on them than they have ink. I've cried my ass off, journaling experiences from all my life. From secondary school, high school, wherever it took me. Every experience took me somewhere else, and I lived each and every one of them, because that's what shadow work demands of you. When you go fully, you descend into it, you start remembering, and it starts hurting exactly as it hurt the first time. But the first time it happened, your mind wasn't capable to deal with the pain. Now you're doing it on purpose. That's the difference. Now you're doing it on purpose. It's like phobia therapy, you know? It's one thing if you're afraid of spiders. It's one thing if I go, I have a spider right here. I'm gonna show it to you. You don't have to touch it. It won't jump on you. Nothing will happen. He's in a box. It's safe. But you can look at him, okay? And I show you the spider. Or if I throw you in a bed full of spiders. Not the same experience. So when you go into journaling, when you go into deep shadow work, what happens is you are being exposed to your shadows one by one, especially if you go through them in a guided program like my own. And I expose you to them one by one so you can see them and journal your way into them and out. Because when they happen to you, when these shadows became shadows, when these shadows were suppressed, you didn't have the emotional, mental capacity to deal with them, to feel them, to process them. Now you're a grown-up. Now you can deal with them. And we're opening them each one by one and dealing with them in their fullness. Now you're there to feel them. That's your main job, to feel it through. That's why I said most of my shadow work was done in a journal with tears. After this journaling rage, usually there's a pleasant phase. It's short-lived. Keep in mind, it's short-lived. There's a peaceful place of clarity. It's like a bubble where it all makes sense. Your whole life finally makes sense. You understand why things went that way. You understand how things happened, why that trauma affected you that way. It's a full sense of aha moments and a deep sense of clarity. I did mention it's short-lived, right? For this period of time, you feel completely reborn because you will realize how all your life happened and how you self-sabotaged and how you people pleased and so on and so forth. And you will feel like, oh my gosh, I'm able to do anything because now I see it. You have the full picture in your hand and now you see it. But then, like I said, it's short-lived. There's the backslide. What do I mean by the backslide? You will get triggered again. And you will start realizing that you'll never fully healed. You'll start realizing that all those experiences that you thought you healed, they left marks. They left scars. They left imprints on you. That sure, make you into the person who you are today. Sure, they're valuable, they're lessons, they brought you wisdom. But they come with triggers. And this is where you start learning where to place your boundaries. Your shadows are the biggest boundary teachers. There's so many books in today's self-help industry, how to set boundaries. Just do shadow work. Just do shadow work and you'll figure out your own boundaries because you'll realize where those shadows left an imprint. I can't tell you. No self-help book can tell you. You are going to figure them out by being triggered. That's the backslide. You're never fully healed. You go through a process of death. Yeah, it's painful. That part is sucky and necessary. But it's not death and rebirth like you're brand new. You carry that with you. You carry the memory of who you were and what you overcame with you. It's still present. It's still haunting. And that's a good thing. That's a wonderful thing. Because it brings you wisdom. It brings you wisdom. It brings you boundary. It brings you accountability. And shadow work is also not a flex. It's not something that you can say, I've done my shadow work. You don't get a prize for doing shadow work. You usually get the scars. You usually get the melancholy. You usually get the sadness. You usually get the nostalgia of all the life you didn't live because you lived on somebody else's expectations. You usually get the sadness of all the things you didn't accomplish because you self-sabotaged. This is the prices that shadow work gives you. It gives you all the prizes you never want to win. You don't get a diploma, you don't get a 6-figures check, you don't get a dream job, you don't get the divine union with your divine counterpart, you don't become a saint. They don't mention you in church, but you become less delusional and you become more grounded. And occasionally, you become aware that your anger is masking something else. Occasionally, you realize that your anger is actually grief, or your anger is actually a boundary being passed, or your anger is actually your shame. You become aware of where you're pushing yourself down. And you become aware of where you are not allowing yourself to be fully who you are. Because it will become more and more obvious. The shadows won't let you be still hiding, still little. They will be pushing you towards something else. And also, another thing that's important to mention, just because you're going through this doesn't mean that others should. Just because you're doing your shadow work doesn't mean that other people owe you applause or recognition. If other people bother you, it's your boundaries that need to stay. If other people affect your process, it's your boundaries that need to be solid. It's not them they need to heal. It's not them that need to do the shadow work. It's your boundaries. It's your triggers. It's you. It's yours. And that's the uncomfortable truth about shadow work. Another uncomfortable truth about shadow work, it never ends. It never ends. I'm 5 years in and still going. Because there's always more shadows to uncover. There's collective shadows, there's ancestral shadows. Oh my God, how many shadows I discovered around different aspects of my life that I wasn't aware that even impacted me. They were my grandmother's ideas, what she grew up with, that got passed down, and they're still affecting me. It never actually ends. You always find a deeper layer. You always find a collective shadow that affects you too. Now, also, shadow work brings in a lot of accountability. Like I said, it's not about being passive. I'm never gonna preach that healing is being non-triggered. No. The triggers are there to tell you when your boundaries have been passed. But that also means that you are fully and truly accountable for holding those boundaries. You don't get to hurt others saying, I was triggered. You don't get to do that. It's your responsibility for not holding your boundary that you are triggered. You don't get to be mean just because. You get to witness your boundaries being crossed and say, whoa, I'm still weak there. I'm still not holding it. And then, back to the journaling, back to crying, back to seeing, why is my boundary not holding? Yes, there will be people that no matter how much you heal, will always attempt to pass your boundary. You cut them off. Shadow work involves losing people, losing versions of yourself, losing time. Realizing how much you self-sabotage is losing time, because you realize how much of your life you've missed by pleasing others. That's why it's called shadow work, because it's the truth that hits you in the face. It's your shadow that's always been following you, hit you in the face. And you will get triggered. You will have to stay accountable for it. You don't get to self-isolate forever. Yes, I did self-isolate during filling my drawer of journals and crying like never before. I did self-isolate quite a lot. But you don't get to self-isolate forever and calling it protecting your energy. You need to interact, and you need to know where your boundaries are. Because sometimes calling it protecting my energy is just being avoidant of triggers. And by being avoidant of triggers, you never know where your boundaries are weak. You're never gonna know where a shadow still has not been seen, has not been acknowledged, has not been loved, and it wants to. Most of our connections will trigger exactly that aspect. Trust me, after filling in a drawer of journals and crying, the first person I meet will trigger Bull's point, my weakest point. That's how it works. That's life. It's not mean by design. It's your inner need to be fully yourself attracting exactly that. Your inner self wants to shine and wants to be seen so badly that it will attract exactly who it needs to show you where you're still hiding. Now, I need to also discuss about the petty side of healing, because that's an unspoken truth that leaves no one comfortable. Healing doesn't make you nice. It makes you clear, it makes you boundaried, it makes you selectively unavailable, not just unavailable and isolated, and slightly unhinged. Yeah, slightly unhinged. You're gonna laugh when people call you out. You're gonna see their inner child before they're aware they have one. You're gonna use humor to mask your emotional pain. And now you know you're doing it. That's what shadow work brings extra. Now you're fully aware you're doing it. So now when people call you out, they call me weird, they call me cringe, they call me full of myself, they call me mean, so many. Now I laugh. I find it funny. Because yeah, that's me. I'm crazy, I'm cringe, I'm unhinged, petty, cringe. I said cringe? I think I said cringe. A lot of people called me cringe. I'll take it as a compliment. You'll still mask your emotions. There's still places where you will feel uncomfortable showing emotions. You'll still mask them. You're just now aware that you're masking them. You're fully feeling them within you, and your face is showing something else. And you already know that the moment you get home, you have to hit that journal and cry, rage, shout. Because sometimes you can't swear and shout at the, I don't know, person at the tax office. But you know you gotta. You know you feel fully unhinged. Sometimes it's not people in your life that trigger you. Sometimes it's the freaking system we live in. And you have to allow yourself to do that. Do you think that the people in power don't have emotions? You think they're robots? I'm sure I've heard some conspiracy theories that they are, but they're not. They're just really, really capable of masking their emotions in public and processing them later. This is also what Freud used to do in his clinical practice, to to process emotions retroactively. He said that displacement, displacing the emotion and processing it later, is one of the healthiest forms to actually deal with emotions. Now, many times you're just gonna notice your shadow, your boundary, or your lack of one in the rear view mirror. Like I said, I'm years into shadow work and it still happens. I still notice things only in the rear view mirror. Wow, I reacted like a total asshole. What happened there? And that's fine. That's growth. Even realizing it in the rear view mirror is growth. Don't hold yourself down. I'm supposed to be healed. I'm supposed to be over this. If you're not treating yourself with grace, you're not doing shadow work. You're doing torture. And you're placing expectations just like your parents expected of you. You're doing people pleasing on a different level. Treat yourself with grace. You noticed it in the rear view mirror. Good for you. Move forward. It's not your job to be fully healed. It's not your job to be zen. Your job is to be messy, chaotic, and emotionally sunburnt. It's fine to feel emotional. It's fine to feel overwhelmed. If you're feeling messy, chaotic, completely over it, not wanting to do it anymore, your boundaries are all over the place, yeah, you're doing shadow work right. It's supposed to look chaotic. It's supposed to look a bit unhinged because it's raw material for your transformation. And raw material, until it's shaped in its final form, always looks a bit chaotic. You're not here to become perfect. You're here to be real, unfiltered, raw, weird, cringe, free. So light a candle, scream into your pillow, journal something crazy, and carry on. Thank you for spending time in the shadows with me today. Subscribe and comment your most chaotic healing moment. I'm really curious about it. And I'll see you in the next video, probably tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching.